Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, mommypreneur, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah who is dedicated to helping women unleash their power, discover their purpose, and live up to their fullest potential. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and help you unlock your passions and discover your purpose so that you live the most fulfilled and impassioned life. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey guys, you are tuned in to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast, and it's your girl, Nancy Ruffin, the purpose professional, aka the one who is in charge of helping you get your life on track and get you aligned with your purpose. Hope you all have had a fabulous week. I hope it's been productive. I hope that you have been doing all the things necessary to keep you aligned with the goals that you set for yourself, making sure that those vision boards are on track, right? Because we're just around the corner. We're kind of creeping up into February, and it's really easy to start losing momentum if we are not focused. So I hope you guys have been staying committed to yourself and to your plans. And if you haven't, know that every day is a new opportunity to start over. Okay, so if you fall behind, if you kind of get sidetracked, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't think that you can't regain the momentum. Just make the decision to start tomorrow. In fact, start today. The minute you realize that you're kind of falling behind on the things you said you wanted to do, in that moment, make the decision to get focused or get refocused. Go back, look at your vision boards, figure out what steps you need to take and get moving. Because the more excuses you give yourself, the easier it becomes to kind of stay in that funk. And then you'll never get yourself out of it. And then come December, you're going to look back, you're going to look at your vision board and you'll be like, damn, another year and another vision board that has just collected dust, hanging on my wall or wherever you have it. But in any case, I am feeling great. I've been super, super busy this week, but I mean, what's new? I'm always busy. But I've been really productive, right? Because we can be busy and not really be productive in certain aspects of our lives. But I've been productive. I found a venue for my third vision board workshop. So I am just finalizing the deets for that, figuring out what would be the best day for me, considering the days that they have available, and just kind of getting everything together and putting it out there. I've also become more focused on, I guess, the content that I'm putting out. And if you've been following me on Instagram these past couple of weeks, you'll see that I've been more, not engaging, but I guess the format of my content has differed. I'm including more videos. I'm producing better videos, and so I'm incorporating music to it and transitions and all of these things that I pretty much had to teach myself, right? Because when you are a one-woman team and you don't have the money to invest in in people that kind of know this stuff, you gotta kind of just learn and teach yourself. But I am not mad, because the more skills I have, then the more marketable I become. And that's something that you guys should think about as well, especially those of you who may find yourself in regular 9-to-5 jobs and are, I guess, a little bit apprehensive about taking on additional responsibilities because you're not getting paid for this. But you have to remember that sometimes the value in what you're doing is the knowledge that you're gaining from it or the experience that you're gaining from it. Because although you may not be getting compensated for that additional work that you're doing, what that does is that it gives you additional things to put on your resume. And once you do something, once you're knowledgeable at it, once you become an expert, that's something that no one can take from you. And then you can use that to market yourself for future jobs, future positions, and then you can command the salary that you desire. So it's something that I want you to start thinking about instead of saying, nah, I can't do that. That's not in my job description. Shift that mindset into one that says, you know what? All right, this may not be quote unquote in my job description, but I am going to kill this, and it's going to be something else that I can add to my skill set. But yeah, so with that said, I want to kind of go into my weekly roundup and kind of just thinking about and talking about some of the things that have been happening this past week in pop culture and, in politics and just, and things of that nature. And for me, one of the big things that happened was the Women's March. If you are not aware that women all across the country were marching this weekend in support for equal rights and against sexual harassment and for equal pay and all of, the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, marching against, unfortunately, the orangutan or the Cheeto or whatever you want to call it sitting up in the White Office, not in the White Office, the Oval Office, but the White House. You see, I think about him and he kind of causes me to lose my train of thought. But in any case, yes, women were marching this weekend, I guess in response to what Donald Trump has done to the office of the presidency this past year and how he has attacked so many people, ethnicities, races, and our gender, right? So yes, shout out to all the women that were out there marching. I was not able to march just because it's hard for me to do everything that I want to do when I have kids, and unfortunately, my kids are still too young for me to take them to participate in these kind of things, only because I'm still very protective of them and their safety, and you just never know what's going to happen at these marches, and just to kind of avoid anything dangerous or putting them in a situation that can possibly jeopardize their safety, I choose to not take them or participate in these types of events. Definitely not yet. They're still too young. Maybe when they're a bit older, I will, but as of right now, I can't. And so for that reason, I wasn't able to attend the march, but I was, watching all of social media. I was watching the news, and it is just really overwhelming. And it really warms my heart to see how many people, not just women, but men as well, were out there and were marching, because it says a lot about the state of this country and how tired people are that we still, in this day and age, have to go through this nonsense. I mean, we are almost in the year 2020, okay? And the fact that we're still fighting for equality for any group, it's ridiculous, really, to me. But until we get people like Donald Trump out of these leadership positions, until we are able to not give them a platform to spew their hate and their divisive commentary and their archaic ideologies, we're going to have to, march and fight, and we're going to have to do it together. And I say this all the time, and I think I said it in my last podcast, but injustice for one group threatens justice for any group, right? Because today it can be women, tomorrow it'll be another group. And so we have to always be mindful how, even though we may not identify with a particular struggle, right? You never know. You never know when it's going to be our time and when it's going to hit home and when it's going to be us having to fight for equality. And so with that said, I also want to talk about that Aziz Ansari accusation and the stuff that's been going on with him. And if you guys are not familiar with who he is an actor. He appears on the Netflix show Master of None, and he recently won a Golden Globe for Best Actor for that show. And so I guess the allegations that are going around and what's been really hot in the news and in the media this past week is that the night of the Golden Globes, he apparently met a young woman. They exchanged numbers, and then, I guess they may have, from what I've read, they had some text exchanges. They made plans to go out on a date, and, they met up, they went out for dinner, and they ended up back at his apartment in New York City. And according to the young woman, he sexually assaulted her, allegedly. And, though from what I read, he didn't believe that he assaulted her because he believed that it was consensual. And I think he based that off of the nonverbal cues she had been giving him. But according to what she has put out in the media, she says that her nonverbal cues were very indicative of the fact that she was uncomfortable and that she didn't want to partake in any of the, I guess, sexual behavior because it was too soon. And it's out there. You guys can go out and read the details. But what I found really interesting in reading, I guess, her take on what happened is that and I have to be careful with what I'm going to say, because I don't want what I'm going to say to be misinterpreted as victim blaming or victim shaming or any of that, because I think that any acts of sexual assault should be taken very seriously. But what my issue is, or I guess what my concern is, that sometimes, or not sometimes, I think all the time, women, we have to own our voices. We have to own our power. And so if we are ever in an uncomfortable situation, if we find ourselves in an environment where we feel that we're being threatened, where we're uncomfortable, where someone is overstepping or crossing boundaries, we have a responsibility to be very clear on that so that they can understand, not misinterpret what our body language is saying, but clearly understand what our mouths are saying. And so we have to take ownership of our power and say to them, you're making me feel uncomfortable. I am not cool with this. I don't want to do this. We're moving too fast. Stop. No. We have to be clear. Right, because you don't want for a situation like what is happening right now with Aziz Ansari and him saying that he misinterpreted, that he never would have continued, I guess, pursuing her had she made it clear, his assumption based on based on what she was saying or not saying to him, was that she was down with it. She, in hindsight, is saying that she wasn't, that she felt really uncomfortable. But reading what she was saying and what she talked about in this interview, she was not really, she never verbalized to him, stop. Okay, and so we have to we have to be okay and with knowing that we have a right to say that to people. And of course, I don't know what happened. I was not in the room, and I don't want to take away from her experience because it was her experience, and I don't want to undermine it, and I wasn't there, and I don't really know what happened. I'm just basing my opinion solely off of what I read and off of what she said in this particular interview. And so for me, we have to take agency over our bodies. And there are often times where I've been in situations where men have made me feel uncomfortable, and it could be something that they said, a certain look, and there are certain things that exceed the boundaries of a compliment, right? Because someone can compliment us and it's a compliment and not be perceived as anything aggressive, sexual, uncomfortable, whatever. But the moment that it makes us uncomfortable, we know what that is. We know when they have crossed that line. And so for me, as soon as someone crosses the line and I feel uncomfortable with whatever it is, with their actions, with their words, with whatever, I'm stopping it right there. And I'm letting them know, this is not cool. What you did is not cool. What you said is not cool. And this is why. And at that point, they have been put on notice. They now know that never again should they approach me in that manner. You have to stop the behavior when it starts. We can't give men a pass. We can't expect them to read between the lines. We can't expect them to understand our body language because unfortunately, a lot of times they just don't. They don't get it and they don't understand. But what is never open for misinterpretation is no, is saying stop, is saying I am not cool with this, is saying you are overstepping, right? When you say that, there's no subject that you can't misinterpret that. Your words are your words. And so, ladies, we have to stop being afraid. We have to stop being shy. We have to own our voices. We have to stand in our power. Okay? Because it is us individually doing this that collectively we are going to make a difference. Okay? And we have to teach these men that it's not cool. And just because you may have gotten away with it, with another woman, I'm not going to let you slide. Like, I'm just not. And so if I'm ever in an uncomfortable position, hey, I'm going to say it. And if at that point it makes that man uncomfortable, well, then you know what? That is not my problem. Because sometimes men need to be checked. And we're going to have to be the ones to check them. Because you know what? Their boys ain't going to do it. Because half of them are just as clueless as they are. So we have to stop falling back on expecting them to understand or to read between the lines and figure out what we want and what we don't want. You don't want something, be clear. Say it just like that, matter of fact, so that they cannot misunderstand you. But anyway, enough of that tirade. And I just want to be clear. I am not blaming her nor shaming her. Her experience is very valid. And if there was sexual assault, then he absolutely should, be punished for whatever that is, but we got to take responsibility for ourselves, for our bodies, for our words, for our actions. Anyway, shifting gears, this week's topic is the value of time, right? Time is money, okay? And sometimes it takes people a really long time to figure this out. And the reason why many of us don't think about time as money is that we've been wasting time for the majority of our lives. We waste time when we're waiting on people, on things, on lines, right? We waste time when we're on hold, on a phone call. We waste time waiting for the subway, waiting for the bus. So we're constantly wasting time, not realizing that those seconds, minutes, hours that we are spending wasting time doing nothing have a monetary value to them, right? Because those same minutes and hours can be spent doing something that can generate money for us, right? Or that can give us more knowledge, or that can make us more marketable, or that can give us a new skill set, right? So I want to talk about that, especially for entrepreneurs, or for people that have side hustles, or for consultants, or for anyone who has not really thought about the value of their time. I want you to start thinking about what your time is worth. Because wasted time is worse than wasted money. And I've said this before. You can earn more money. All right? You spend 5, 10, 20 bucks, it goes out the door, you can easily make that money back. But once that time is gone, that's it. There is no getting that time back. You can't go back to the past, right? All you have is this moment. Right now, what I said 5 minutes ago is already long gone. Okay? I am never going to get the previous 5 minutes back. And so for me, it's so important that for all of us, no matter what we're doing, no matter what our roles are, no matter what business we're in, you have to start taking your time seriously. And the reason that I say this is because if you don't respect your time, no one is going to respect your time. You have to teach people the value of your time and what that's worth. And this is something that for a long time I struggled with. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs or people who have side hustles who are just starting out and trying to get their feet wet, let's just be real. There's going to be, a period of time where you're going to have to do shit for free. Just because you have to build your reputation. People have to really see that you're about your business and that you're worth investing in, right? So if you're fresh out the gate and nobody really knows about you, they don't know about your services, they don't know about your products, then you're going to have to give away some of your time. And the best of us have done it. Lord knows when I started out, I did a ton of things for free. I did tons of workshops for free. I did readings for free. A lot of the work that I did in the very beginning was for free, but because I had to prove myself to people. I had to show people that I really knew what I was talking about and that I did bring value to them, right? So even though I knew what I was worth at the time, the public didn't know. And I didn't have enough experiences or enough clients under my belt to command, the money and the fees that I command now. And now is because I know what my time is worth. And I know what the value it is that I bring when I'm giving someone my time. I spoke about this, I think in my Instagram, where, many of my workshops I have to charge for. One, because there is a cost associated with producing the workshop. But even more than that, the time that I spend in preparing for the workshop is valuable. I spend hours and hours and hours making sure the presentations are right, making sure that my delivery is on point, making sure that I have the appropriate materials and activities and exercises. And this is hours of work that go into prepping for these events. I'm not just going in there and not giving people what they paid for. right? And so if I did all of that and then had the event for free and no one showed up, because it has happened to me in the past, then all that pre-work, all that time I spent preparing, the time that I spent getting myself, to the venue and preparing and prepping for the day is for nothing, right? And that all of that time is time that, one, I won't get back, and two, time that I could have spent doing something else that would have been a benefit to me, right? That I could have booked another job and made money that way, or I could have spent the time with my family, right? Because there's never anything more important or more valuable to me than that. So if I'm taking time away from my family to do these workshops and prep and do all of this pre-work, right? That is time that I could have spent with my family. But here I am, because I'm passionate about the work that I do and I believe in what I do in helping women. I really want women to get to a place where they are living the lives that they feel that they deserve and that they've always dreamed of, So this is why I have to charge. And this is why I want you to start thinking in your own business and in what you're doing. How are you teaching others to value your time? Because the truth is, people don't respect free. And what I mean by that is, if they have not invested anything in it, if they have not invested their hard-earned money in it, it's easy for them to be like, you know what, I ain't going to that workshop. Yeah, so what, I RSVP'd. So what, I said I was going to go, and she's, prepping and preparing based on the number of people that have RSVP'd. But you know what, I ain't going because I ain't lose no money. Ain't no sweat off my back, right? It's easy when it's like that, because when you haven't spent no dough, then it's like, you know what, I don't feel like going today. I just feel like lounging. I want to lay in bed. I want to do this, whatever. But if you've spent some of your hard-earned money, right? So if you're spending $40, $50, $60 for a ticket to attend an event, you may still not want to go to the event, but you will think twice before saying, nah, I ain't going. Because if you don't go, then that's $40, $50, $60 you just threw down the drain, or you flushed down the toilet, or whatever, right? So people don't respect free. And not only that, though, because sometimes people will pay and they still won't show up, and they still won't tell you that they're not coming, right? But you know what? That's fine, and it's all good, because you know what? At least I have been compensated for my time. So it's cool. You don't want to go. You got money to blow. $40, $50 ain't no thing to you. Hey, honey, that is fine. That's your prerogative. But you know what? At least I have been paid and compensated for the time that I spent in prepping for the event and for the time I'm taking to be there and facilitating. And so, guys, we have to start shifting mindsets. You have to start valuing your own time and knowing that the time you're spending doing or not doing something has value, dollar amount. And you can put a price tag on your time based on your knowledge, your experience, the value that you bring to things. Because if you don't know your worth, then nobody else is going to know it. And the thing is, sometimes you have to teach people your value so that they can know what you're worth. Because I'm going to tell you guys, my fees are my fees. And I don't fluctuate. I don't negotiate. If you don't think I'm worth that, that is fine, honey. You do not have to think that I'm worth it, and you don't have to go with my services. I'm sure that there's someone out there who does what I do for less, and it is your prerogative to go out and hire that person. But what I will tell you is that they might be cheaper, but you may not be getting the same quality of information or the same level of experience that you would when you invest in someone who may be a little bit more expensive, right? And I know what I bring to the table. So you have to be able to Set your price and then stick to it. Don't fluctuate your worth or your value based on someone's ability or inability to pay you what you're worth. Because one thing that I never do is lower my fees. Now, I'll work with you. I offer payment plans. We could figure it out. But honey, my fee is my fee is my fee. And you do not have to agree that I'm worth that fee, but I know that I'm worth that fee because I know what I bring. I know everything that I had to do to get to this point. Okay, I am someone who is constantly investing in myself so that I can bring my clients the very best of what I know, the very best resources, all of that. And a lot of people just don't know. And so there's so many people that are, I guess, hungry and thirsty to just claim the title of entrepreneur that they are willing to sell themselves short just so that they can get clients, just so that they can appear like they're working or like people are investing in them. And that's not, I don't do that. Like, I ain't taking no jacks. I am not up here pretending, to be anything other than who I am or what I'm doing. My fees and prices are listed very clearly on my website. They have recently gone up, in fact, because hey, inflation. And, and I just know more. And I'm bringing more value to the people that I'm working with. And so you guys got to stop wasting time. You have to stop letting others waste your time. Because that's not what we're fitting to do for 2018, honey. Okay? Because if you want to accomplish those goals and if you want to live the life that you say you want to live, you have to be very purposeful and intentional with your time and who you are giving it to. Okay? And if they cannot appreciate the time that you're giving them, take that as a lesson and let it be the last time you give that person your time. Because next time they're going to have to pay you and then they might not be able to afford you. Okay? People do not respect free. Just remember that. And if you are not putting value on your own time, others aren't going to put value on your own time either. And there's nothing wrong with knowing your worth. And I think that that's probably where we struggle the most, because a lot of times we don't feel like we're worthy of commanding a certain fee or compensation or salary. And this trickles down into our everyday, 9-to-5 work lives. How many of you have, accepted job offers for less money that you deserve just because you've been afraid to ask for more? Plenty of people have done it. I've done it in the past. I don't do it anymore because I know what my value is. And so I always go in with a salary 20% more than what I think I'm worth, because then that gives me room to negotiate what my true value is. Okay, a lot of times we don't do that. A lot of times we go in, we see whatever the posted salary is, and we're like, yeah, okay. Like, not me. Especially being in healthcare, especially I've been in my organization for almost 20 years, so I know how things work. And I know that they are allowed to give up to a certain percentage of your baseline salary. So you're not going to come to me with we can only give you 5%, 10%. Nah, I know how this works. I've been here way too long and I know what my value is. And so I'm never afraid to ask for what I'm worth, because then what's the worst they could say? No? All right then, no, and I'll go somewhere else, and you keep it moving. And that's the mindset that I want you guys to start taking when negotiating your prices, negotiating your fees. You have to know what you're worth, and you have to stick to that. And you can't let anybody allow you to devalue who you are. Just because they don't think you're worth that does not mean you're not worth that. Okay? Because if they don't think you're worth it, you know what? There's somebody else that is cheaper that they can go to. But I guarantee you that the cheaper does not always necessarily mean better. And a lot of times you get what you pay for. All right, it might be cheaper, but the quality is subpar. And then what's going to happen is, you know what? They might end up coming to you anyway. And now they done spent even more money than they initially wanted to, had they just invested with you in the first place. Anyway, with that said, I am going to end this week's podcast with that thought. I want you to remember that time is money. Know your value, set your price, and then don't deviate from that. So until next time, mi gente, I wish you guys a magnificent week. May you go out there, stay focused, don't let anything sidetrack you, and go out there and crush some goals.